Welcome back to Superhuman Customs. I'm your host, Stephen Human. This is the channel where we do custom action figures, generally McFarlane figures. We have fun, and that is the whole point of this hobby, is to have fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and sometimes we do some really crazy things that don't work out, and that's fine. Well, today what we're gonna do is another Absolute Batman. You'll remember last year I did one, and I used a very strange figure to do it, and I did kind of an interpretation of Absolute Batman. I love Absolute Batman. I think he's great. I love Absolute Superman as well. And so I've wanted to do one that is really strictly Absolute Batman, that looks just like he does in the comics. And this Dark Knight Batman is a great base. But here's the thing. As an action figure guy, scale is important to me, as it is to most of you, I assume. It's kind of one of our sticking points, is that we want proper scaling. We don't often get it. Well, Absolute Batman is 7 feet tall. He is massive. So he's got to be at least 3/4 of an inch taller than your average McFarlane figure. And so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add height to this guy. And I want him to be able to stand behind another Batman on my shelf and tower over him. We're also going to do a cloth cape. We're going to use, I've seen other customizers who have used leather with a zipper, because it really does look like a zipper on the edge of the cape. We're gonna do the 4 capes. We're gonna really make this guy look the way he's supposed to look. It's gonna be a lot of work, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have to add height. We're gonna be cutting him. We're gonna be going a little bit crazier than I normally go. So let's have some fun, and let's see if we can pull off this Absolute Batman. When it comes to adding height to this Absolute Batman, what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna see if I can get a bigger or a longer waist here. I'm gonna try with this Batman and with this guy. Also, having a little bit thinner one might work. I'm not sure if it'll work or even if they're that dissimilar, but we'll give it a try. Then we're gonna cut his legs and his arms in order to add bulk and to add, some length. So this is gonna be a little bit crazy, but let's start with this and see what happens. Of these 3, this one is the tallest, and it's thin, so we'll see how it looks. It might look really weird, it might look great. Well, we'll figure it out, we'll try it. So you can see it definitely thins him up, which I think will work well for this Batman, just to make him look, big and imposing. One other thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these is slightly longer. This one in the middle, this neck peg. So we're gonna put that one. It's not gonna add much height. And then I'm gonna play around with which head I wanna use. One of these 2 Batman heads. Either of them can work, but this one's a little bit smaller, so I think that'll help to add to his mass size. So I think I'm gonna go with this one. So this is the guy we're gonna use as our height monitor. Now this guy was shorter than him, and he is slightly taller, but we need to get him so that he is like this much taller. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut his limbs and we're gonna go for it. Part of me wishes I'd use this guy because he's naturally already taller, but I think that this is, at the end of the day, is gonna be a better base. And I bought him specifically for it, so it's all experimentation, right? So I got one arm cut, and this is really easy. Just have a knife here, hit the joint, and it actually sliced really easy right through him. And so that's what I'm gonna do here with the arms and the legs. This one's a little bit more difficult. The other one went really fast. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to drill some holes in here and on the arms, and I'm gonna take these nails and I'm gonna cut them down to size, because I don't want to have these, when I do the milliput, it has a high potential of just coming undone and breaking. But if I have something in the middle as like to hold it, then it will work pretty good. Then the milliput will go around it, and he'll be sturdy, and he'll stand, and he'll be posable, and all the things that I want him to be. So that's what I'm gonna do, and then we'll see what kind of height we can come up with. He is taller. Not quite as tall as I want him to be though, so we're gonna need to figure this out. You can see here I've added quite a bit of height to him, but he's still not quite there. All right, we got the arms going. Now let's get some milliput. Let's fill in all these gaps. All right, so we went through and we put the crotch piece and the original abs back, because once I got the arms and stuff in and the height, he looked really weird. So now he looks more normal. I mean, his biceps are massive, but I am trying to make him look like absolute Batman, and his biceps are massive. The only problem we've run into is here. So when I glued these in place after they were dry, I put some glue obviously in there, and I had drilled the hole too high up in here and I didn't know. And so the glue got in there, and so now the arm will not bend this way. So like this one will go up and down. He's got full range of motion, but this one does not. So that's a bummer. This obviously is going to be the arm that he's going to be holding the axe, so I was going to have him in kind of a position, but he still has full range of motion here and here, but it won't go up and down anymore, other than this motion with that. So that's something that happens sometimes, and you've got to, you know, deal with it, and you could buy another figure, but that's not how I roll. I want to see if I can make this guy work with what I got. So there we are. Let's get, so that we can get painting a little bit. So I've taken, these are from an armored Batman, and I had them on that steel, but I don't really need them. They were taking up too much space, so I cut them off. These will be the pauldrons for our absolute Batman. So I'm just going to glue these in place. This guy's perfect since he doesn't have any joints in here. This is just going to fit perfectly, and it's not really going to impede anything. We got to get his neck up here so we can add some of the spikes. What I'm going to do, I've got this jacket. I'm going to cut it in here and see if it will work. I think it will, just to add the space. I've used this on a couple of figures and it's never really worked, so this is probably the perfect use for it. All right, I'm going to glue that in place. I think that's going to work pretty well. Once all this is plain black, I think it's going to look just the way we want it to. This is great. It bulked him up. He still has full range of motion because it goes underneath his pauldrons. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to paint these a light gray, see where we're at when it comes to, well, that really does not match at all, does it? It doesn't change the color much. Maybe I'll have to darken that up with a little bit of black. In any case, I'm going to paint this stuff so we can see how everything is looking with its transitions between, you know, the top and the bottom. That'll give us a good feel, and then we can start adding spikes and stuff. Paint this stuff black. This will be awesome. Now let's get some black on him, and then we'll see where we're at and what else needs to be done to make this guy really look awesome. So I'm basing this figure primarily on this hot toy that's coming out, or it's come out, I don't know. This is a really great interpretation of Absolute Batman in 3 dimensions. And so that's kind of what I'm basing all of this on and trying to get. So what we're gonna do is I've taken these little carpenter nails and I've cut them. I'm gonna do smaller spikes based off of this one. He comes with the big spikes too. The one that I obviously did last year had the big spikes. I want small spikes on this one. So I'm taking my drill here and we are going to kind of base this on this guy. So I'm gonna drill a hole here. And that's what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna drill holes and then I'm gonna test whether or not these are long or short or whatever. And then I'll glue them in place. So you can just get to watch as I figure all this out. But I think these will work pretty great. Whoops. They are tiny though, so give me a second. I'll do this part off camera. So I got some glue in place now, and I'm just putting these in the holes. And as you can see, it's looking pretty good. Now that we got all the spikes in place, we're gonna need to drill in holes here so that we can add the longer ears. We're gonna do the same thing, so it'll be nails. I'm not gonna do it on camera though, because I'm gonna wanna hold it in a way that you're probably not gonna be able to see it, but that's what we're gonna do. Drill holes in here, so he's got his ears, and then we'll do milliput to form them, but that way they're not gonna break. They're gonna be like these, where they're gonna be very protected, very strong. There we go. This is looking great. I'm gonna start molding some milliput so we can get the sign here, widen that out, and get his ears, but this guy is looking like Absolute Batman. So one of the most important things about Absolute Batman is the axe. So what we're doing is we're going to take these wings from it was one of my earliest customs where I turned Batman Beyond, the ink version, into just a regular Batman Beyond. And I got the regular wings from my daughter and we traded, and so these have just been in my box ever since, just my extras. And so we're going to cut the axe out of here and out of here so that we can go over the top of the handle and really make this look cool. So we're just gonna basically cut out more or less kind of the shape, and then we'll do some detail work from there. The great thing for customizers is that the axe does not have a lot of detail to it. So we're going to glue it on here, and then we will add some lines and things. I'm debating on whether to do it with Milliput or with just fabric paint, just do some thin lines, but we'll play around. But that will be his axe. So I've decided to do the lines just in fabric paint because I can get them nice and thin all the way up. This will all be black, obviously, and so they'll be less noticeable. I feel okay with, how Absolute Batman is that, everything is handmade. He's an engineer. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I've gravitated toward him as a character, because he isn't quite so precise and so perfect as the original Batman, and I like that a lot. And it comes through in doing stuff like this, where it can be imperfect and it matches the character just fine. So that worked so well with the cape, or not with the cape, with the axe. I'm actually going to do it with the stripes on his arms and with the stripes on his symbol as well, with just the fabric paint. I think that that's going to work out really nicely. I'm not going to have to grind it down or anything. The only problem is getting in, and maybe I'll regret this, I don't know. You guys know that I take weird choices sometimes and they don't always work out, but I'm going to fill in all of this here. And since I've got to put all the lines on it, I think it's going to it'll fill out nicely and it'll look good. It won't look weird because his symbol has lots of lines and like spikes on it a little bit. So I think we're going to be okay doing it this way. Again, I might regret it. Sometimes I do, but I'm thinking it's going to look pretty cool. So all this other stuff is drying, and you can see that I did his ears, and those will need to be sanded down once we're ready. I'm going to go through, I made some gray, I mixed up some more gray to match, and I'm just going through on his arms here and just painting them gray. And if a little bit gets on this is already dry, just so in case you're wondering. This is dry. I'll paint those black and everything so I can get a little bit on there, but yeah, I just want to get through and make it so he's really starting to take on the look that we want, this Absolute Batman. One of the things about Absolute Batman is that he's shown that he's got much more of like shorts here than just the straight up sort of underwear that you usually see on Batman and Superman. And it's perfect on this guy because he's got this dividing line here of where the legs came together. So it naturally has a division point. So we're just going to do that. We're going to add so that he's got some, look more like trunks than a Speedo. And that will add to the Absolute Batman dynamic that we got going on. I unfortunately won't be able to do his ears until probably tomorrow because they're going to take quite a bit of time to harden, and then we need to sand them down and everything. But his symbol is all dry, and so I am going to paint that black, and I'm going to do the little, I don't even know what they are, they're wrappings of some kind, I don't even know. But we're going to do that and see how this guy is looking. I'm really excited. Everything is turning out pretty dang cool on this Absolute Batman, so I'm excited to see what it looks like once the symbol is black. Well, everything is finally dried, and I got these things ground down on my sander out in the garage, so it's looking pretty good. Just needs that layer of black to make sure that it is looking the way that we want. Now, obviously, I got kind of the muffs on the ears because in one of the issues, I think it's issue 6, it shows that his ears actually snap down, like, and can point over his eyes, and he stabbed out somebody's eyes with them. It is a violent comic, but awesome. But I liked that, and so the version of the toy that I'm kind of basing this on from that Hot Toys, it also has it shows the little things that snap in place that allow that to happen. So I definitely wanted that so that it would look right. And yeah, man, that's looking good. It's looking real good. Well, after painting it and taking a look, the symbol isn't really working for me. It's conforming too much to his chest. It was a worthwhile experiment, but it hasn't worked out. So I am going to milliput over because I want it to look more flat and uniform. So I'm going to take some, and we're basically just going to mold in here so that it can get flat, and get this so that It starts to stand up from his chest. And then what I'm going to do is, once I'm molding the rest of this in place, I'm going to take some fishing line and I'm going to put in the sort of squares that he's got there. So there's going to be some fun experimentation. Let's get this going and then we'll take a look at the next stage. What I'm doing before I get into any kind of the molding, like the cutting so that it's got kind of the edges and things, is I'm patting it down so that it warms it up and smooths it out. And then I can take a little bit of water and I can do the same. And it will help to loosen things up, kind of like clay, and smooth them out. Not that at the end of the day this is going to be smooth, because I'm going to take the fishing line and I'm going to add the lines in it. But this way it'll get it pretty good. And then I can cut into the rest. So that's what I'm doing now. All right, so normally it's shown with just squares like dug in. So what we're going to do with the fishing line is I'm just going to press in and go, try and space them about the same. This will make perfectly straight lines. It won't mess up the milliput like a knife will, because a knife will pull on it. That's the problem that I found with milliput, is that a knife will, it'll get caught in the clay and it'll mess it up. And we don't want that. So yeah, that looks pretty good going across. And then we'll do here. And obviously this will just be painted black. That's it. You could paint it the gray, because sometimes it's shown with the axe off that it's a gray. The toy that I'm basing this off of, they actually have a yellow when the axe isn't on there. But I'm just going to go with black. All right, look at that. I think that's about perfect. It's all dry. Let's get it black. See where we're at. I'll probably add a little bit of gunmetal gray just in a dry brush once we're kind of wrapped up to make this look a little bit more metal. But I don't know how much of that I'm going to do, because in the comics it really does just look black, and I want this to be fairly comic accurate. Now we're going to take a little bit of gunmetal gray and we're just going to dust it over the top here. I want this to look like he's got the axe on, even though the axe is going to be in his hand. That's kind of how he's been drawn lately in the comics, that he's always got his axe and he's got the axe on and he's still got his normal symbol. So that's what we're going to go with. I want him to be holding the axe at the end of the day, and I want his symbol to have a little bit of sheen. But I think this looks good. This gives a little bit of shine to it, a little metallic. Not too much though. Gunmetal gray is the way to go if you want to keep it muted. Now we're just going to add a few details here before we start working on the cape. Just going to get some gold on these buttons, little clasps here, just to give them a metallic look. Nice and simple, nothing too complicated. Now I've already gone through with a darker gray and put some texturing in here, but I want to go through with some wash and add a little bit more, because I'm going to go over with a little bit of the gray to deaden it. And I don't think that this is gonna, that this gray will stand out enough. So I'm gonna go through with this, make it a little bit more pronounced, just move it around. And that will allow me to kind of add some nice texturing in here and cover it up once I'm ready with the lighter gray. So I've got some gray here, and man, I got too much. There we go. Gotta dust it off a little bit, get it so it's not as thick. Just gonna hit over the top, wipe a little bit. And I'm gonna make sure that some of this gets covered. That's what I want. I want it to be less, and I've got way too much on the brush. So I'm gonna need to pay attention to this and do it off camera. That's what happens sometimes when I'm filming. It's harder to pay attention to everything that I need to pay attention to. That's better. See, because I want to deaden it. I want it to be there, but I don't want it to be so pronounced. I want to be able to see it and feel it, but not have it draw all the attention. What we're going to do now is we're going to work on the cape. So this guy is pretty much done, but I've got some pleather here, so some fake leather, And I'm gonna cut 4 strips. First I'm going to mark them off here. They're gonna start out, in the comics, he starts out kind of thin and goes wider. And then it kind of comes to a point like this. And so I'm gonna do 4 of these. I'm gonna cut them. And then my daughter is going to sew them in place, and then we're going to use this zipper as the edges on 2 of them, because he's got kind of like this zipper looking sort of pattern to him. And then I've got some wire here, over here, and that's what's going to be the cape. So I'm excited. I think this guy is looking awesome. Having him with the axe in his hand is incredibly cool. My beautiful daughter is listening to the Beatles and sewing my cape. Look at that. So I just took a little bit of fabric paint, and as you can see on the ends here, I just added the little barbs that he's got, and then these will go into the cape. Honestly, this is turning into one of my favorite customs of all time, this Batman. What I'm doing, we just got a couple steps. We're gonna have to attach the cape, but first we gotta do some gunmetal gray on the zipper here, because it looks in the comics, it really does have a zipper look to it. And you could do a bigger zipper, something with bigger teeth and metal teeth. This is one that we just had it in there, and it might not be as kind of exactly how I envisioned it, but it will still look pretty cool. But I would suggest getting a bigger metal zipper for this, because it'll match the comic a little bit better. But this is still gonna look cool, and you can see I've got this all in place. I'll paint over another layer of black, but we are close, and this guy's looking amazing. All right, I got the middle 2 capes done, and I'm gonna glue this in. I've got everything bent, and I drilled some holes, and so we are going to shove it in here, and then this guy is going to be finished. This has become one of my favorite customs I've ever done. I'm really glad that I took the time to just try and make him look a little bit higher tier than sometimes I do. Sometimes I get into a figure and I just want to get it done, and I'm not super into it. I'm into it enough that I want to do it, but once I get to that point, I'm like, oh, I want to get it done. I want to see it finished. I want to get it on the shelf. I'm glad I took a little bit more time with this guy, especially than when I did the one last year. He turned out infinitely better, and instead of being an interpretation of the character, he really is just the character. Here's a side-by-side of last year's and this year's. And here's a side-by-side of Batman with the other Batman. So you can see the height difference. And he looks great. He looks great on the shelf. I'm really excited about this guy. He turned out amazing. And I hope you guys all like him, because I'm really pleased. I really, really am. He looks great. Well, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of your comments, and this is just such a fun hobby. I hope that you're enjoying it too, that you're making some fun characters, and that you're doing just some really cool things, taking some risks, cutting some limbs, and making figures that are purely yours. I'm Stephen Human. Check out StephenHumanAuthor.com for all of my novels, because I am a sci-fi thriller novelist. If you like this stuff, you'll like those, and I'll see all of you very soon.